The world is changing fast. Leaders from the world's most powerful nations have gathered in Evian, France for the G7 summit. The meeting comes at a time of great uncertainty. We face a shifting global economy, ongoing wars, and rapid technological change. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has come to this summit with a clear and firm message. She welcomes the recent agreement between the United States and Iran, but she also insists that the world cannot just move on. There is much work to be done. The deal must lead to real change, and Europe has its own demands. President Trump announced an agreement with Iran shortly before the summit. Mr. Trump called it a historic achievement that would bring peace to the Middle East. Von der Leyen agrees that the deal is welcome, but she also offers a word of caution. This is just the first step. It must be followed by real action. Her first demand is about the Strait of Hormuz. This is a narrow waterway in the Middle East. It is one of the most important shipping routes in the world for oil and gas. The conflict had closed or made it dangerous for ships to pass. Von der Leyen insists that the strait must be reopened immediately. Freedom of navigation must be restored, and this must be done without tolls or fees that could slow trade. This is essential for the stability of the region. It is also essential for the world economy, which depends on the safe flow of energy. This agreement is a starting point for bigger and more important talks. European leaders are not naive about Iran's ambitions. Von der Leyen says that this deal should open the door to wider negotiations. These talks must lead to one clear goal. Iran must end its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. The world cannot accept a nuclear-armed Iran. This is a red line for Europe and for the G7 nations. The agreement must not be a way for Iran to buy time. It must be a real path to a safer Middle East. The Middle East is not just about Iran. Von der Leyen has also turned her attention to Lebanon. She delivered a powerful message. There can be no lasting peace while Lebanon remains in flames. She is calling for a genuine ceasefire in Lebanon. This means a real end to the fighting, not just a pause. She also insists on full respect for Lebanon's sovereignty. Lebanon must be free to decide its own future without outside interference. The problems of the region are all connected. Peace in one place depends on peace in another. This crisis has taught the world a difficult lesson. Once again, we have seen energy dependency used as a weapon. Countries can be held hostage by threats to the supply of oil and gas. Von der Leyen says this must stop. Europe needs to reduce its dependence on routes like the Strait of Hormuz. She points to alternative export routes that are being built. One example is the IMEC, a new trade corridor. These routes are more resilient and offer more choices. They will make it harder for any single country to threaten the global energy supply. Europe has been forced to learn this lesson the hard way. The G7 is also discussing the broader global economy. Von der Leyen is leading the call for change. The world economy has some dangerous imbalances. Some countries produce too much and consume too little. Others do the opposite. This creates tensions and unfair competition. Von der Leyen pointed to a stark fact. In 2025, every member state of the European Union had a trade deficit with China. This means every European country bought more from China than it sold to China. As a group, the EU recorded its largest ever trade deficit of 360 billion euros. This is a staggering number. It shows a system that is not sustainable for Europe. The EU's strategy is clear. It is called de-risk, not decouple. This means Europe does not want to cut all ties with China. That would be impossible and damaging. But Europe must reduce its risks. It must be less dependent on one single country for its supplies. This strategy has two parts. First, build domestic capacity. Europe must make more things at home. It needs to build its own industries in key sectors. Second, diversify supply chains. Europe must make trade deals with many different countries around the world. This creates a net of free trade agreements. If one source becomes unreliable, others can step in. Europe is also ready to protect itself. Over the last few years, the EU has built a, quote, toolbox of measures. These include things like safeguards and anti-subsidy duties. These tools can be used to fight unfair competition. This includes cases where other countries try to coerce or pressure European companies. Europe will not allow its market to be flooded with unfairly cheap goods. The problems are not just about China. All G7 countries see the same patterns in their economies. One key area is critical raw materials. These are materials like lithium and rare earths, which are essential for modern technology and green energy. Many of these are controlled by a few countries. The G7 must come together to achieve, quote, adequate scale. This means pooling their resources and demand. This is why the G7 is working on a critical raw materials agreement. Von der Leyen stresses that unity is the precondition for a fair global playing field. Alone, each country is weak. Together, the G7 is strong. The war in Ukraine is still a major focus of the G7. President Zelensky will be joining the leaders at the summit. Von der Leyen has a message for him. Europe's support is unwavering. Europe is providing massive support. A new €90 billion loan package is being delivered. This covers 2/3 of Ukraine's financing needs for this year and next. The first payments will arrive this month. Von der Leyen is also calling on other partners to step up and cover the remaining third. The situation for Ukraine has improved since the last G7 summit. Von der Leyen highlighted Ukraine's successes. Ukraine is holding the front line. Ukraine is even regaining some territory. Ukraine has developed the capability to strike strategic targets inside Russia. Ukraine has become a world-leading producer of advanced military equipment. Russia is feeling the pressure. European sanctions are biting and cutting deep. Putin's war economy is weaker than it has ever been. A huge step forward has also been taken. Europe has opened the first cluster of EU accession negotiations with Ukraine. This is the formal process for Ukraine to become a member of the European Union. Ukraine has made remarkable reforms. They have delivered on their promises. Now, von der Leyen says, Europe must deliver on its promises too. The G7 is not just about war and economics. It is also about the future. Von der Leyen has been vocal about the need to protect children online. She thanked French President Macron for making this a key topic of the summit. The digital world offers amazing opportunities, but it also brings huge risks for our children. Von der Leyen reframed the debate. The debate is not whether young people should have access to social media. The debate is whether social media should have access to our children and teenagers. This is a profound difference. It says that social media companies are responsible for protecting children. Children must not be treated as products to be harvested. She pointed out that childhood is formative. It is when the brain develops and a personality is formed. Children need time to mature before they are exposed to the pressures and dangers of social media. The case for delaying social media access is getting stronger. She also placed responsibility on the tech companies. In Europe, the rules are strict. Platforms must prove that they are, quote, safe by design. This means safety must be built into the product from the very beginning. It cannot be an afterthought. This principle is especially important for children and teenagers. As von der Leyen says, there is a lot to work on. The G7 summit in Evian is tackling a packed agenda. The world is at a difficult point. Geopolitics are fragmented. Economies are reconfiguring. Technology is changing rapidly. The results of this summit are important. They will feed into the next discussion at the European Council in Brussels. The message from Europe is clear. We will engage. We will work with our partners, but we will also demand action on our key priorities. Von der Leyen has made it clear that Europe will not be a passive observer. It will be an active force for stability, fairness, and safety in a rapidly changing world. The demands are many, but the goal is simple. A world that is more peaceful, more balanced, and more secure for everyone, especially for the youngest among us who will inherit it.